Cool Figure TV. The hunt for who created the old world continues. But before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, the revolution is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I got some revolutionary dinner for y'all. We digging deep into history. The lies are exposed. Let's get into the content. Salute.
Dam, the submerged town of St. Thomas, and the bizarre symbolism and technology that suggests that there's much more to the story than what we've been told. When the Hoover Dam was completed, it formed Lake Mead, again, the largest reservoir in the entire United States. This project submerged 248 square miles of land. This is equivalent to 158,720 acres gone. And all of it is under 532 feet of water, sinking things that would blow our minds today. Exactly like we've shown all over the world, including the town of St. Thomas in Nevada, where in the 1930s, residents were told to sell their land to the federal government. Most buildings were abandoned or dismantled. Why dismantle a building if you're going to sink it anyway? I think all of us can answer that. These buildings were not built with wood and they were not built with dirt. They were palaces and they were from the old world. They did not belong in Nevada at all. The entire town was submerged for decades until something happened recently. With record low water levels in this fake lake that they just made. Remember, it's not a natural lake. There was never supposed to be water there. So obviously the water levels are going to go down. And they knew this. And that's why they dismantled these buildings. Because St. Thomas has now reemerged. Visitors today can now walk through the town's ruins. Old roads are now visible. This was one of many buildings, looking mud flooded, of course, and burying a lot of the buildings. And I believe that this is proving that a lot of our map was hit with a lot of water. And this is why we find doors under the ground, where you find windows that look straight out into the dirt, unless we dig them out, just like we saw in episode 36. So why did St. Thomas, Nevada, in the middle of nowhere, why did they need all these buildings in the 1930s? How many people were even living there? It must have been a few thousand people to need post offices, gas stations, general stores, homes, and churches, including schoolhouses, where they had just 500 people at its peak. And I was told in schools that this was the wild, wild west, where they had shacks and dirt roads. So why the heck do we have buildings that are built with brick and stone? So many of them that they had to dismantle them before submerging them, because they knew that it would be coming back. And just 500 people occupying the town. This man-made lake is massive. And the Hoover Dam is built with massive underground infrastructure, including tunnels. Of course it has tunnels. It has shafts and chambers, as well as sealed off rooms. It's all blocked off to the public. Dams are a very strange thing. And it's very obvious at this point that they're not just for generating energy or to manage flooding. The Hoover Dam, we are told, had a dedicated ceremony where President Roosevelt gave a speech attended by thousands of people and broadcasted nationally in 1935, featuring two winged figures, two massive bronze statues that still sit at the site today, right at the base of the dam's dedication plaza. I mean, we can just look at this for a second. I think anybody with eyes can figure out the symbolism here. I think we all know which group made this one. You can look right at the floor and you will know. Between the winged figures, the compass rose, the celestial star chart, tying the architecture to the stars. This is exactly the kind of ritual that they do all the time. This is clear as day now. Zodiac and astronomical symbols. All of this with the date of September 30th, 1935 at exactly 8:56 p.m. Why that time? Why exactly 8:56 p.m.? Where at this exact time, Jupiter and Saturn were both prominent in the sky. Where Saturn, according to this group, is one of the most symbolically loaded planets. And we have talked about this in episode 117, where Saturn is aligned with Jupiter, the supposed king planet. It is interpreted as a cosmic marker of massive shifts in human civilization. This is all in my opinion, and you're free to think whatever you'd like, as always. But we're just getting started, especially when you hear that 96 workers died during the construction, with others saying it was many more. And they just weren't counted, with no memorial or plaque listing their names. Again, a ritual, as we have seen in the Ball Cycle, episode 97 and 98, requires sacrifice, where there is a plaque stating that they died to make the desert bloom. Hoover Dam, and possibly other dams that we've seen, are much more than what we're told. We know technology is being given back to us strategically over time. We all know that there are things that they found in the 1800s that we have never, and we will never see. Thinking energy, frequency, geometry. We don't know what kind of energy is being produced from these dams. Or for what? Are they powering cities, towns, or something else? Are they powering old world technology that is actually inside this thing, where you have symbolism outside, and the symbolism makes no sense for a dam? And we all know that. But let's say that there is a technology inside that needs an insane amount of power that only trillions of gallons of water could produce, where 2.5 to 3.5 trillion gallons flow through the turbines each year at the Hoover Dam. What would this be? We know about CERN. We know they're doing things, attempting to find the God particle in their words, splitting atoms. What do you think they could be doing that we just don't know about? Old world technology that they have found. Dams aren't just powering towns. They're not saving anyone from floods. They're the thing that's actually flooding the place. They don't care that much about us. Trust me, the Hoover Dam, it was funded by the U.S. federal government through the Boulder Canyon Project Act of 1928, where the government still owns it today, where even workers at the dam have said, there are places that we're not allowed to go. Sealed off chambers and restricted zones underground. Deep tunnels that are not used for power or maintenance. Is there an old world technology at the site that requires a massive amount of power? If the answer is yes, what technology would this be? Why is this place so symbolic with winged figures outside and all connected to the stars? And it was done at 8:56 p.m. What is going on inside? Again, we have winged figures outside. We see the same type of thing over at CERN, where they have Shiva the Destroyer right out front in the lawn for everybody to see. The Hoover Dam created Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States, all connected to the stars, where they needed to do it at a specific time. Was this the time to open the portal? Needing a massive amount of power. Project Stargate. This is a secret U.S. Army program. I need everybody to focus right now. With the Hoover Dam creating Lake Mead, where Project Stargate was established at Fort Meade, where we all know that there are no coincidences. None at all. Project Stargate was operational way earlier than 1978, and we all know it. Its primary focus was on investigating the potential for psychic phenomena, remote viewing at CERN, to show that this is not shocking at all. And it's a very real thing. At the world's most powerful particle accelerator, they are attempting to find other dimensions, tearing the fabric of our dimension and opening portals. This is in their own words. If extra dimensions exist, they could be revealed at the LHC at CERN. So what is going on in the desert inside the complex of the Hoover Dam? I believe that they are conducting experiments. I believe they have found old world technology inside of that massive complex. And I believe that it had to be all aligned with this place that we live. And I don't think that this is the only one in the world. Where we saw the US government do this in the 1930s, not only building the Hoover Dam, but also constructing the Fort Peck Dam, located in Montana, doing this one in 1933, where they were possibly hitting multiple locations. We have all heard of the ley lines. Are these all locations on the map that are extremely powerful, places that they could potentially tear the fabric of where we live? Or are these the places that the old world already did? With Las Vegas, or in other words, Sin City, located right next to the Hoover Dam. So you tell me, especially when we go back to episode 122. And China does the exact same thing. In 1994, possibly playing catch up, not only are these dams submerging massive amounts of old world sites, incredible buildings that we will never see again, and we have proved this, but the dam itself is a tool, a multi-purpose tool, without a doubt in my opinion. The dams are wiping out hundreds, if not thousands, of old world locations. We have proved this, we've shown this. The one in Turkey is unbelievable. Check that out after this. It's episode 120. Episode 121 is Egypt. Episode 122 is China. And India has one too. It's episode 123. And I did it that way to show that this is not a once-off. The dams are 100% weapons against the old world structures. We've proven that, and it's been shown to a lot of people. And we will continue to do that, but today I want to show that the dam itself is extremely powerful. It is there, and there are things going on inside the complex, within the walls. It has bizarre symbolism. They held a weird ceremony with the president even giving a speech, timing it all up to match with the stars at 8:56 p.m. This is not random. They know something. They have knowledge, and this is what they did. The possibilities of this place that we all live are endless. I'm not going to restrict the research to things that we can without a doubt prove. I'm going to continue to ask questions, and I'm going to continue to dig deeper, because this is when we find things. We all have to ask questions like, what would the government need that much power for? Why are there buildings, places inside this dam that are restricted to even the workers? Why was there a weird ceremony at the dam? Why are there two winged figures sitting outside with Thuban written on the ground? Thuban, meaning snake or serpent. And we all know that serpent represents hidden knowledge. We have a compass on the ground and a location of possible sacrifice to turn the machine on. If they were just constructing a dam, none of this would be going on. They would just build the dam. They would never set the dam to a symbolic circle that denotes the 25,772-year cycle. Again, a dam doesn't need Thuban, the serpent star, written on the floor in front of it. They were aligning this machine perfectly, using the earth as its power source. There is something inside there, and I want to know what it is. An old world technology, something that would blow every single person in the world's mind in a second. This is an old world technology hiding in plain sight. And we know this because we know that a machine needs a source of energy. And you can see how powerful this technology is, just based on the amount of power intake this thing has. 2.5 to 3.5 trillion gallons of water a year. It is a machine. And who owns it? The dam pumps out 4 billion kilowatt hours a year. Sure, it lights up 1.3 million homes, but 4 billion kilowatt hours a year is enough energy to run an entire country. That's 456 megawatts of raw power. This is enough power to run over 6 CERN colliders. This is not just for Vegas. This is not to run the casino lights. And according to the Bureau of Reclamation, usbr.gov, this government page documented and telling all of us that there are more than 3 miles of tunnels, all a part of the Hoover Dam's construction site. And this is what they're telling us. The site remains off limits to the public today. 3 miles. Do you think there's more? The Hoover Dam, in my opinion, is splitting dimensions, and they have been doing this for years. And I don't believe that this is the only one in the world. Not even close.
Did you think it was crazy to think these buildings were all bigger than you can see? Did you think they were just AI generated? Are you ready to have your mind blown? Call it what you want. Being at the right place at the right time? I don't believe in coincidences. We are being shown the truth, in my opinion. Are you ready to see something today that you can't find in a textbook? We will be getting to the Illinois State Capitol building today, so get ready. So today, I'm taking a trip to a lot of places. We're going to be checking out some crazy stuff. Buildings that have wild stories. architecture that does not fit the mainstream timeline, and as always, a lot more. Let's begin with the Streeter Public Library, where we are told the construction began in 1902, and it just popped up January 31st, 1903, which again, we've definitely proven that in episode 41, using artificial intelligence, that this is logistically impossible, and now they are currently restoring it. At this point, restoration, in my eyes, means destruction and removal, especially when the landing in front of the murals are blocked off to the public and the front entrance is closed to the general public. Let's set the tone for this episode. The murals have never been cleaned since they were supposedly installed in 1905. And here we go. And severe smoke damage occurred to the murals in 1945 when the library had a fire in the boiler room. All right, so we get the nod. We have a hidden restoration process by our incredibly advanced society. Joking, of course. And can we just look at this AI-generated name for a second? This is right in your face kind of stuff. What is the guy's name that supposedly painted the murals? I'm not even going to say it, because if I do, well, you know what it would say. Once you have eyes to see, this kind of stuff just honestly is so in your face and childish. And we all know about how these incredible architects, painters, supervisors, and the rest are killed off immediately after the job is done, or right in the middle of it. So let's take a look at this together. The murals were done in 1905. What year do you think this guy dies in? Well, let's take a closer look. The project is done in 1905, and he's dead in 1905 in New York City? Interesting. By suicide. Now, of course, they care so much about our society that they would close the library down and paint over things that the public should not be seeing. Okay, so we have a very interesting story here, and I want to continue to our next building because we have a lot of cool stuff to see that gets even more in depth. Less than a mile away, we have the Logan County Courthouse. And this courthouse is also getting destroyed. I mean, renovated. Other iconic features of the Logan County Courthouse are the four-faced clocks and stained glass interior domes. So they are repainting the clocks. And as for the stained glass interior dome, it was removed a few years ago, of course. And once all the changes and destruction is done, oh, did I say destruction? I mean repairs, but yeah, destruction. It will be reinstalled, but we don't know when that will be, of course. Wow, okay. Now I'm going to prove another point right here. So there's always issues that come up in the world, right? There are time periods such as the Civil War, the Great Depressions, I don't know, freezing winters. Now, in current day construction, these are all real issues that we actually have to talk about and actually happen. But the 1800s, apparently, this was no problem. And the buildings always got done in like 9 months. Never an issue. So let's prove this point right here. In March 2020, Logan County got the money to repair the courthouse. However, 2020 brought its own challenges. Walters said repairs halted during this time period that we all just went through. Then he and his team were met with labor issues and increased material costs. This is honestly normal. This is what happens when constructing things. Things sometimes come up. Things happen that slow the process of construction down. How is it, though, that 200 years ago, this kind of stuff never happened? There was no construction issues. They never had a labor issue. They never had a shortage of construction workers. They never had weather issues or anything that would slow the process of construction down. Everything just worked out back then. Every time. Everywhere in the world. It amazes me that buildings in the 1800s, where they did not even have a road completed, were simply constructed in a year or less with no issues. Yet our current civilization can't even restore it in a shorter amount of time than it took to construct the entire building 120 years ago. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. This is a different building in Ohio, but I just want to show you what I'm talking about. The Logan County Courthouse in Ohio, because the AI can't come up with a new name for these buildings, it's so repetitive, but that's not the point here. This one was built in 1870, yet took our civilization 6 years to renovate it. In 1870, it was easy and they could just construct the entire thing so fast. No, it isn't possible for every single town in the 1800s to fully understand the construction process. Every single architect to be perfect. and no understanding of where these people were trained. What school did they go to? They were all incredible? At some point, you got to question this. At some point, it doesn't make sense. And I think we're at that point. So they build these incredible buildings. They just throw them together in a year, and then they go home and live in a shed, suffering in the winters with bonnets. The narrative is insane. Oh, and remember, we showed that the University Hall, right down the street, was founded. Do we all want to take a guess what else was founded in 1839? 184 years ago? You got it. The Logan County Courthouse was also founded. Incredible. So we have a lot of founded things in this town. They give us this nice picture, even though it's fake and just a drawing. Now for the Illinois State Capitol building. At first, when we first got there, I was really upset that we had another old world building under construction. If you go back and watch my Boots on the Ground playlist, it's actually unbelievable how many times these buildings are under some sort of construction. It's reminding me a lot of the fire narratives, where if it's an old world building, they have to put some sort of construction machine next to the building. Repetition is a clue, and it means that you need to look closer into it. So yeah, I was upset at first about the construction, because we wouldn't be able to go inside or get up close to the building. Until I took my camera across the road, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Call it what you want, but timing is everything. The old world exposed underground, showing us that these buildings are massive, so much bigger than we can see underground. And this hole right here in the side of the building looks like yet another tunnel entrance. Is this a tunnel that we just got on camera? If you're unsure, again, I'm going to recommend it. After this episode, I suggest watching episode 42, Tunnels Below Our Feet. Did they just destroy a tunnel with this construction process? To me, that is exactly what it looks like. And I'd love to hear what your opinion is about the entrance to the lower part of the Capitol building in the comments below. I don't think that was something we were ever meant to see. If we were here any other time, we would have missed this. Now that we have this sort of thing on film, it breaks down the walls. And it's no longer a speculation. I think we just found a tunnel system that runs underneath Springfield, Illinois. And then we have this castle that is now owned by the state and repurposed into the Illinois State Military Museum. I've contacted a member of the staff for the building because they honestly have zero information about it anywhere, and they have not emailed me back, of course. The crazy thing about this place is that it's located right next to the Illinois State Capitol building and the Supreme Court clerk, the same one that the Illinois State Archive building held zero archives about. Incredible buildings, all right next to each other, which is normally the case. Once you find one of these buildings from the past civilization, there is normally so many more that are so out of place, all right next to each other. This changes everything about where we are. There's so many lies right in front of our face. How did we all just walk past these buildings for so many years and not think anything of it? That truth is so much more powerful than lies. And once you know the truth, you don't go back to walking past the old world buildings and thinking nothing of it. Now, exactly a half a mile away, on the dot, from the Illinois State Capitol building, we have the Union Station in Springfield. Now, this part gets very interesting, as they're going to try to explain how the main source of transportation got here. And it's about to get really eye-opening, so get ready. On December 21st, 1907, a fire started. It started at the Johnston Hatcher building. It destroyed the eastern half of the 600 block on East Adams Street. So in my opinion, a ton of old world buildings gone to this planned demolition. Now for the best part of this paragraph. This will all tie in with the train station, but here we go. The fire stopped only when the blaze hit the Bresmer building, which was built to be fireproof. No, it wasn't. It was a failed attempt because that exact same building 40 years later was burned down by a fire. It's unbelievable. And to take it a step further, let's go even deeper. They're going to try and explain this away with some stupid lighting his pipe story. But that didn't work because he starts talking and said he didn't have a pipe or matches. So the officials had to jump in. And who are these trustworthy people? And because they tell the world that they are officials, whatever they say will be what happened, and everybody will believe it. They said a short circuit in the wiring beneath the window ignited the cotton after the pipe story didn't work out. So ridiculous. They had to make something up because he ran his mouth and called them out on their lie. They destroyed these buildings, in my opinion. And I say my opinion, but there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to support this. And of course, that wouldn't be the only evidence that I use. Let's go even deeper. To prove this point, firefighters were back at 7th and Adams on October 11th, 1913, so 6 years later, when another spectacular fire demolished the new Johnston Hatcher building. Once again, flames then swept west along the same half block of Adams Street. Although, what do you know? The fire comes to a complete halt when it reaches the amazing Bressmer building that we already know does burn down. So obviously this was a planned demolition, a controlled one to be exact. This does not happen. There were obviously things in this town from the old world, a past civilization that they did not want us to see. And of course, they don't even try this time to explain how this fire started. But this 1913 fire is where we will tie in the Union Station, because this is where the fire destroyed it. And it's weird that they say there was an original. As you can see here, when we all know the so-called second Union Station was the original, and they demolished it. And here it says, it was subsequently rebuilt with a more modern design. A more modern design? Of course it was. Unbelievable. Let's please just take a look at this picture for a minute. We have dirt roads. I need everyone here to understand that in order to ride a horse and pull the wagon with hundreds of pounds of brick in the wagon, they would need a paved road. The wheels that they had would sink right into this dirt. The wheels were pathetic, especially if it was raining that week. And you know, sometimes it does rain. I know in the 1800s, they want to pretend that there's never any rain or ever any snow, but there was. And this is just another example that would prove how incredible the tunnel systems from episode 42 are. They had incredible tunnels that were in every town, connecting all of these buildings together, which we've shown, with limestone walls. Yet they didn't have a road? They did have a road, in my opinion, and it's underneath all of this dirt. It's so backwards, and this is why we are questioning things. So this was their wheel. Good luck. Not going to happen. In my opinion, this train station was here. Trains were here in the past civilization, and it was not thousands of years ago. It was very recent, and our history is a complete lie. We are told that the train was brand new within the last few hundred years, when in reality, it has been here time and time again. And this was the past civilization's train station. And this was the past civilization's town. And then it's no wonder it's Illinois' state capital now. It's incredible. And it was destroyed in 1907 and 1903. And wait, what is this? No, they had another fire in 1921? Are you kidding me? The fire destroyed the old world building. I mean, the 1920s building. Along with the cars, and of course, the Hatchers replaced the burned building with a smaller service facility and a car wash. I was also going to check out the Western Clock Manufacturing Company building, located in Peru, Illinois. Interesting name for a town. But that one was destroyed by a fire as well on New Year's Day, 2012. Perfect timing for a clock company to burn down. New Year's Day, right on the dot. Destroying the old world with more fires. We all understand that brick and stone does not burn from a random house fire. These, in my opinion, are demolitions. So we have cowboys and Indians from 1865 to 1895. Cowboys and Indians. Yet we have massive construction projects going on all around the world, all over America. And at the same exact time, we have the Civil War, supposedly going on in 1861. Yet massive cathedrals were easily constructed in every city, everywhere. And no problem, it was easy. The mainstream narrative does not add up. We have the Montgomery County Courthouse in Illinois that was supposedly thrown together in less than 24 months, nearly 200 years ago. And then you have the Carnahan Courthouse, located in St. Louis, Missouri, the exact site of the 1904 World's Fair. There were two phases in the construction of this incredible building. The first phase began in 1929, and the building was done in 1930. Simple. Then the second phase of construction, which included the eastern half of the courthouse, began in 1935 and was done in 1937. Now, like we have mentioned, we have proven through AI ChatGPT that this narrative is impossible. Nobody was building these courthouse structures in 1 year, anywhere in the 1800s. And then you can call up the State Archives building yourself, which we did, and they will have zero information on it. There is zero mention of any construction company that was used in this project because there was no construction company. It was from a past civilization, and they thought we would never ask, but we are. And it's completely destroying the mainstream narrative. The same lying narrative that has taken decades upon decades to work on, attempting to trick children year after year into thinking that this is the truth. But as soon as one of us hear the real truth, we are now interested, and we begin questioning the lies that have been told to us. And once you begin to question these lies about the mainstream narrative on these buildings, the lies never hold up, obviously. They make zero sense, and we are never given all the details. The facts that would be necessary for us to trust the mainstream narrative, we would need so many more details, such as who was the construction company? Where did the materials come from? How many horses were used? How much water did the horses need? And how was that set up for them to be properly hydrated in the summer months? Were there places for the workers to stay so they could get up early and actually work on the construction and get the job done? How many men were used? Was there ever an issue with the construction process? And on and on and on. But this is about to get insane. And I have been waiting a while to show you all this. So you're definitely going to want to see this. Here we go. Now, the actual website says that it was built in 1828, saying it opened its first courthouse, not 1928 like we were previously told. In a book called Contemporary American Sculpture that was published in 1929, a year before the building was completed, it already listed that the building was done and of Riebeck's work. So was the narrator getting ahead of itself, thinking that nobody would catch that flaw? I believe so. And they have stories about freedom going on in the building in 1850. So the story is all over the place when you go from site to site. And this is when we know we're onto them. And then we dive deeper. And this is when we look around and find things that are insane and completely blow the narrative open. And that's exactly what we did. First of all, this looks like it's on the ground level, something we have seen so many times all around the world. Are there a lot more structures that have columns like this that are so much deeper and hidden by dirt underground? That's exactly what's going on, in my opinion. Now, as we zoom in on the top of this 386-foot high building, that is most likely even bigger than that, we will see two Sphinx-like ornaments. They are 20 feet long, 11 and a half feet high, which has a room underneath them. Hold on. What am I reading here? The griffins, with the aluminum of the roof, form a huge lightning conductor, which is connected with the grouch by concealed wires. Griffins, free energy, technology from the past civilization right in front of our faces. The Sphinxes were given human faces instead of the lion's face, lion meaning griffin, in order to symbolize mercy, tempering justice. Sure. Yeah. And I really want you all to think about this one. Here we go. We have the pyramid on top of the building, just like in Giza. And in Giza, something is missing from the top of the pyramid. Did they remove the griffins from the top of the Giza pyramid? And the faces on the griffins in St. Louis were changed from a lion to a man, exactly like the ones in Egypt. And these are griffin paws, in my opinion, were the Sphinxes in Egypt, also generating power, just like these ones. And when you look at the $1 bill in the USA, it shows the all-seeing eye being removed from the top of the pyramids. Is this just symbolism for them removing the griffins and removing the previous civilization from our history? And were the ones in Egypt, just like the ones in St. Louis, Missouri, here on top of the courthouse building, actually griffins? I'm going to come right out and say it. I think the Sphinx in Egypt was actually a griffin, and it's been defaced. And yes, I believe griffins were most likely removed from the top of the Giza pyramids. Identical to what we see in St. Louis. Was ancient Egypt not that ancient? We have even more to share about this incredible city, as well as this general location. I want to show you all something that is hidden under a layer of grass. And if we just removed the grass, we all know at this point what we would find. How incredible is it? Let's find out today. And I want to show you all something massive, something that is sitting right in front of our faces and has been our entire lives, and in my opinion, for multiple civilizations, and won't be going anywhere anytime soon. and that is the 227 foot tall St. Louis Basilica, which has a seating capacity of 2,500 people. So let's take the camera and go inside this basilica and dive deep into this mainstream narrative today and expose the lies that have been somehow hidden for so many years. Now, if we want a true representation of the year 1907, supposedly the exact same year that this St. Louis Basilica construction began, then we need to see what was supposedly going on during this year. We are told that this was the panic of 1907, the first worldwide financial crisis of the 20th century, and also the perfect time to begin the 3 million, or converted into 2023, the $98.23 million project. It's actually the worst possible time to begin a project like this. This narrative is already sounding off, and when you find major flaws like this, we know that we have a green light to dig deeper. So let's begin with exposing the supposed architects, Barrett, Haynes, and Barrett. Reoccurring names, yet again, which we've seen so many times in so many episodes, which is just another giveaway that this name is AI generated. But let's continue. Let's see what this group was up to from 1907 to 1914. The exact same years that we were told that this basilica was built in. You would think that this incredible basilica, that none of us have ever seen anything close to this be constructed today, or at any point in our lifetimes, you would think that these architects would be fully focused on this specific building and making sure that it went perfect. They wouldn't be off building another building at the exact same time, would they? Well, they started 2 other projects at the exact same time as the St. Louis Basilica, because they were just that incredible. And not only that, during the exact same time period that they were supposedly building this massive structure that we've never seen built in our lifetimes, they were able to direct their attention to 4 other states and 13 other buildings, all during the financial crisis. Starting to sound off a little? Should we keep going? Let's do it. This was constructed, right? It wasn't? It wasn't founded in 1914. So we have another building that is found, and it's right in front of our faces. You do not find your house. You construct your house, and you build your house. If you need to go back and watch episode 35 for a reminder on the legal definition of the word founded, I suggest doing that after this episode. Here on the Basilica's website, we begin to find reoccurring words, and it gets really strange. The probability of this type of verbiage reoccurring in all of these narratives is mathematically impossible. Here we go. This is going to be another proof that the narrative is written and generated by the AI in the exact same sentence. We find a completely made up story to attempt to trick us into thinking that it's a real event and giving it legs to stand on. Here we go. The altar was the gift of Mr. and Mrs. William Cullen McBride, whose daughter, Kathleen, would become the new cathedral's first bride. So in your face. The McBrides get the first bride. Of course they do. Now, remember, there's never any details on the actual construction process because the construction never actually took place in this timeline. They do not explain how many men were used in the construction. This wasn't thousands of years ago. There should also be photographs of the building's construction. The camera was invented in 1816, so there should be something at this point, but there's nothing. Now, I'm sorry, but when you are spending the equivalent to nearly $100 million on a building, and it only takes 3 to 5 minutes to take a photograph in 1910, someone would have done it somewhere in the world. The excuse that it would take too long and is an inconvenience is absolute nonsense and is a crutch to hold on to believing the mainstream lie. This was not thousands of years ago. This was relatively recent, and we do not have a single photograph of the construction process. It's a massive flaw in the mainstream narrative. Thomas P. Barnett was the architect for the St. Louis Basilica. His father, George I. Barnett, not a real photo, even though they had cameras in the 1800s, especially for supposedly famous people. Now, I'll tie this back in really quick here, but I want to show you all the repetition again and how obvious the lie is when you can see from this side of the board. So George finished his amazing training in England at the age of 16 and then trained with Thomas Hine. So we have another Thomas. Do we remember that his son is also Thomas? So 2 out of the 3 names are Thomas. And not only do we have this weird fact about George, but we also have this to prove my point that these are all fictional characters, especially anyone doing anything significant before 1850. They don't even know how old he was when he died because they don't give us his actual birthday. Remember, again, this is not 1,000 years ago. They know all about him when he was 16, but no clue when he was born. And these are the people that we are supposed to trust with our history. Now, are you ready to expose this thing and show how this is mathematically impossible? Are you ready to see how this is all scripted and, in my opinion, not real people? Here we go. There are 4 people involved in this story, and we are very deep right now into this. So just bear with me. 4 people. We have the father, George I. Barnett. We have his 2 sons, Thomas Barnett and George D. Barnett. And then we also have one more guy involved in this supposed architect firm, John I. Haynes, that are all connected in the weirdest way possible and proves that this is mathematically impossible and a total lie. So here we go. We have all 4 of these people right here, both Georges, Tom, and brother-in-law John. The father, George, was born in 1815 and died in 1898. The odds of him being born on December 29th, 30th, or 31st are 0.008%. So he died at the age of 82, since he most likely did not have his birthday yet in 1898. Now let's take a look at John Haynes, the son-in-law to George. He was born in 1860 and died in 1942. What are the odds that he also dies at the age of 82, just like George? And then we can take a look at both of George's sons. Let's start with George, the kid. He was born in 1863 and died in 1922. So he died at the age of 59. What are the odds that the other brother, Thomas, also dies at the age of 59? What are the odds that these 4 characters are all connected? Thomas P. Barnett, born February 11th, 1970, died September 23rd, 1929, at the age of 59. Can you see with open eyes now? Do you see how this is all here for us to find? All we have to do is look. These are characters. This building is not from our civilization. It is from a previous civilization, and we are being lied to about how it got here. There are clues within each one of these narratives. It is up to us to find them and expose them. And what are the odds that the exact same year that the St. Louis Basilica is found, the Barnett, Hayes, and Barnett Architects Company dissolves? What are the odds? You all know what I think about that. I want to point one more thing out about this narrative that I found, and you tell me what you think about this. On Wikitree, I found John Haynes, and we were told that he married into this Barnett family, with George being his father-in-law. We are told this multiple times, but when you go on Wikitree and we find this character, it starts to get even more strange because it says that he was the husband to Harriet Haynes, which is obviously his last name, but let's click on her name. And what do you know? She is not related to George Barrett. Her family name originally being Hellery. Her dad was Henry Hellery, having zero relation to George Barrett. And this is the same John Haynes guy, being involved in the Barrett and Taylor firm as a draftsman. This is all proving that the narrative is a total fabrication. It is all over the place and shouldn't be trusted at all. When I am told one lie, I begin to question it. But when I am told an overwhelming amount of nonsense by the mainstream narrator, like we have been today, the narrator has lost my trust forever. This is not the first time. We have hours and hours of documented evidence showing that the mainstream narrative is not to be trusted at all. Here we have the Cahokia Mounds, which is only 10 miles away from St. Louis, but in my opinion, all connected to the past civilization. It's very clear that this specific location on the grid is of importance. In my opinion, these are all areas on the map that the Earth gives off a natural energy that is extremely powerful, that the past civilization was able to take advantage of. Do the so-called controllers of our current civilization know this and take advantage of this today? And it's weird because you have pyramids all over the place. They're everywhere. Maybe not as big as the Monks pyramid, but there were a lot of them that have been destroyed in the last 100 years. This one is actually still here, which is exactly how our construction works today. It just lasts forever. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. And it's so weird just looking at these pictures. They look so out of place. And they look out of place because they are. And we know this here. But you look at the ground and it looks so fresh, like brand new topsoil that you buy from Home Depot. Like the grounds crew just got done raking it and getting it ready to be shown off to the public. It's honestly so weird. And what are these people doing? They don't even look real. Where are they walking to? They all look dressed up and just taking a stroll. My opinion is that those are Photoshop people. We have seen this kind of thing so many times where they don't show any faces and the people don't fit in with the picture. Exactly how the building, or in this case, pyramid, doesn't fit in our timeline. This one was from Italy and was allegedly built in 12 BC. Oh, in only 6 years. Because of course they know the exact start and finish dates of things from 2,000 years ago. But they don't know the exact same information from only 100 years ago. And we have shown this time and time again. Over 2,000 years ago, yet Abe Lincoln was born in a shack? So yeah, I'm not buying that nonsense. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that gives it all away. And why we are questioning the mainstream nonsense. They can build a pyramid 2,000 years ago, and then our civilization is brainwashed and is supposed to believe that we have evolved so much after 1,800 years that we are now being born in sheds. I can't speak for everyone, but I am not going to sit here and just accept that. As I walked around this site, it is 2,200 acres. So it's obviously massive. And this story that they're going to try and tell us is nonsense. There is the Monk's Mound, which is the main one. And I say mound, but I really mean pyramid. And I'm going to call it the Monk's Pyramid from now on. This is no random mound of dirt. And this is very clear. Yet they brushed it off as a mound in its title. None of these are mounds. They're all pyramids, and they're all connected. Monk's Pyramid is 100 feet high, 955 feet long, and 775 feet wide, making it the same size at its base as the Great Pyramid of Giza, right here next to St. Louis. Let's continue on to this paragraph. The perimeter of its base is larger than the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. All right, so we have something massive and extremely important here, covered by a layer of dirt and grass. If the layer of grass was removed and exposed what is really under it, the entire USA narrative would be completely shredded and thrown in the garbage, as it should be. People would be so confused why there's a massive pyramid and other pyramids connected to each other. It's a 2,200 acre site. Construction of the Monk's Pyramid began about 1,123 years ago, so they say, on a site that has already been occupied by buildings. Already had buildings? I'm sorry, what? In the year 900, they already had buildings? So at the same time, over in Italy, we have the St. Mark's Basilica being built in a time period before they even knew how to make paper, supposedly. So Italy is building this, and then we have massive pyramids and buildings being built in the USA by the Mississippian culture, which is completely ridiculous. Because if they can build massive pyramids, then they can build a better hut than this to live in. The narrative is contradicting itself because 850 years later, we get cowboys and Indians, and everyone is freezing in the winters in their shed. And so we're on the same page. The St. Mark's Basilica and these pyramids were built in the year 850 to 900, supposedly. And then we have all kinds of basilicas and massive structures being constructed for centuries in this ridiculous timeline that we're given. And then once 1900 hits, we are no longer able to construct the St. Mark's Basilica or a Cologne Cathedral or a Milan Cathedral. It is very clear that there was a reset, and our timeline is a complete fabrication, in my opinion. Now, if you're on the fence, this should help bring you over. If this was a narrative that you would stand by, blindly accepting no matter what, I think this is the time to reconsider. Since you would be backing up a mainstream narrative theory that is, by admission, a theory and not at all proven, botanical or a substance from a plant that they found that remains from the Monk Pyramid, suggests it was built much more quickly than previously thought, suggests, perhaps, Maybe. On the order of several consecutive decades, but we don't know. It might be. Providing an alternative view of its construction history. And there we have it. The mainstream narrative cannot explain these structures because they don't fit into the mainstream timeline. A much more logical explanation is that the previous civilization was here, an extremely advanced civilization. Should we blow this narrative away? Should we expose it and show that they are not being truthful with us? Should we show that it's not from 1,000 years ago? Let's do it. Thomas I. Ramey, who bought the site in 1864, of course, as soon as the 1800s hit, like we talked about, this is when they had to figure out the narrative. And this site was not fitting in. They tell us that an era of more responsible ownership began. What a joke. Many artifacts were found at or near the surface. Really? Finding the old world's things and removing them so that we don't see. Very interesting. So there were things here in the 1800s that would have been important for our research. Ramey had a tunnel made, or did he locate one? After everything we have seen, even in the last 5 episodes, do you think this guy made a tunnel, or do you think he found one? And of course, they brush it off and say that the tunnel revealed nothing of historic interest. I'm sorry, but the first time I read that, I laughed out loud. Could this be any more in your face and right on point with what we are talking about? Tunnels, removing things from the site, all once our new civilization's timeline hits. Not in the 1400s or 1600s, no. Right when the mid-1800s hit, this all takes place. Incredible. And if you thought I was crazy, thinking that removing the dirt would expose the past civilization's work, let me show you what I'm talking about and exactly why they keep this thing covered up with grass and dirt. In 1970, they adopted an incredible strategy, one that only a genius would ever think to do. Scraping away the topsoil. Unbelievable. They dug down 2 feet, and this quickly revealed various features, including what appeared to be the outline of the temple. 2 feet under the dirt, we have a temple. We have something unbelievable. This is not a mound. This is a pyramid, and I'm sure the architecture is insane and unexplainable in this make-believe mainstream narrative timeline, which is why it's covered up with dirt and grass, as well as the rest of the 2,200 acres of pyramids. This technique was, of course, opposed by professional archaeologists. So they stopped because they found too much and would shatter their lie. Wow. Now here in the preservation section, they're going to try and explain how it stays in perfect condition for hundreds and hundreds of years. But right when the 1950s hit, all of these random natural catastrophes happen. And of course, accidentally damage the clay layers within. Can you believe it? I don't. And to put a nail in this narrative, once and for all, they say this was a clay structure, but workers discovered a mass of stone deep within the mound. This is a stone structure, not a clay structure. And we are being lied to about this pyramid at every turn, covered by dirt. And the previous civilization's work is hidden in plain sight. I also went to the St. Louis Art Museum, which had the exact same interior layout as the Field Museum in Chicago, which is very strange. We all know these buildings were not built originally to be museums, but honestly, just standing in them makes you feel as if you're in a building created for giants. The doorways are massive. The ceilings are so high, it doesn't make sense for a civilization that is short and struggling through the tough times and without proper architecture education, and going home to their huts and riding around on donkeys to be constructing massive Greco-Roman buildings, all to just show off some bones that were made in China. That was not the true reason, and we all know this. The view from the top of these pyramids were incredible. Being able to see the city of St. Louis from the top was very cool. And I want to leave you all with this thought. While walking up to the pyramids and just using our knowledge, and with everything else that we know about this topic, it really made me wonder how much bigger underground this pyramid really is. All right, and I don't want to be done yet. We have a short bonus for today. And as a thank you for your support, I want to have some fun and speculate on something with you all. I want to speak about the city of Turkmenistan and just introduce it for everyone that hasn't come across it yet, and also go deeper into the connection between the house of worship and this city. So there was a city named Turkmenistan, and they were supposedly taken over by Russia in the 1800s. The exact timeline that we are talking about here, where the narrative officially begins for our current civilization, in my opinion. Now, if you are new, Russia and Tartaria were the same land on the map. Russia takes over Tartaria, and Russia's flag is showing the man on the horse stabbing Tartaria's flag symbol, the griffin. So Russia is taking over these territories, including Turkmenistan, a place that is so strange. It basically looks straight out of the old world and untouched. The reason I bring this up is because we have this structure in Chicago, and we are seeing that it is all connected and 100% on a worldwide operation. The first house of worship for this group in what is now Turkmenistan. And this is how they're going to introduce all of these exact same looking structures all over the world. And what do you know? The only one that's gone is the one that was in Turkmenistan. What are the odds? So this is where we can go ahead and find even more structures from the past civilization, because they are attempting to bunch them all together to explain them all away. So we are given 8 locations of these structures that are currently standing. And honestly, these remind me exactly like Frederick's Church in Denmark. They look like we're just seeing the top of them, and they are actually so much bigger underground. We are given the one in Wilmette, Illinois, Kampala, Uganda, Sydney, Australia, Langenhain, Germany, Panama City, Panama. And is anyone else seeing what I'm seeing? That they are all in the middle of nowhere? It's very odd. Just like Turkmenistan, where it is literally in the middle of nothing. And in every single picture of this city, there are basically no people. And you have to ask logical questions at this point. Why build massive buildings and structures for nobody? You wouldn't. In my opinion, these buildings were simply found. And there is a lot more to see here in this city. And I'll dedicate a whole episode to this. But to prove the point, Teapapata, Samoa has one as well. In the middle of nowhere. It's just weird. New Delhi, India, same thing. And of course, we have this one in Santiago, Chile. It's weird. They are nowhere near anything. I know some of these were built recently, but the fact of the matter is that they all have consistencies and give us clues. And when you find smoke, there's normally fire. Patterns are extremely important when looking for lies. And that is what we are seeing here. They all have connections to Turkmenistan, and they are all in the middle of nowhere. It's odd, to say the least. Are these places sitting on ley lines connected to the Earth's natural power source? Are there tunnels in these locations? We can see that the public blueprints show that this building is bigger than we can see and goes underground. And there is a door at the bottom here, leading to what? These are all over the world, yet hold the same consistencies. Something to think about for sure. Especially when you get the construction story that are basically campfire stories, where some people believe that the building was used to keep a whale alive. Others say the building was a refueling station for captured German submarines. Others say it was for kickboxing and his friend thinks it's for discos. The group that found these buildings holds the keys. And through our research, our questions, and open eyes, we continue to get closer and closer to the truth. Where we went into Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and got boots on the ground footage and learned a lot about this town. And it carried on into episode 42, where we learned all about their tunnel system. And we exposed a ton about this location. And I think this triggered something. On October 9th, 2023, Fox 11 News reported that Oshkosh, Wisconsin had a road construction project going on, where they, for some weird random reason, needed to delay the project. This is when archaeologists were just randomly in the area and working on the site. I'm just going to ask the AI ChatGPT if archaeologists are normally present during road construction. No, archaeologists are not always present during road construction projects. So we definitely have something weird going on here. And they found an extensive village. Are you ready to see what they found? Did this community that we've built trigger a destruction project in Oshkosh? In my opinion, this is exactly what happened. So they say that the Cultural Resource Management Project has been working with the city since the start of the road resurfacing project. Road resurfacing? They're not building a new road. This is not making any logical sense. A road resurfacing project happens all the time, and you definitely don't need government programs or agencies there, or archaeologists for these small road resurfacing projects. The cultural resource management programs are typically established and enforced by government agencies to protect archaeological, historical, and cultural sites and resources. So are you ready to fully understand what is going on here? Are you ready to see why I think we triggered this? Here we go. Because of the history of the area, the archaeologists already knew that there were archaeological deposits on both sides of the existing road. The old world was there for decades, and they knew this. And now that we have just gone there, they need to cover it up or destroy it. And there was a high likelihood of remnants under the existing road. What kind of remnants would they be talking about? And that's exactly what researchers have found. Unbelievable stuff. We all know that there was a much more advanced civilization that lived here before our current timeline. A civilization that was able to construct the Cologne Cathedral or the St. Mark's Basilica, and all of these towns, including Oshkosh, that have been hidden from us and explained away by saying that they were just ancients. They were from thousands of years ago. So basically implying to us that we were not supposed to question it, when in reality, this advanced group of people were not here thousands of years ago, and instead, relatively recent. It's a village site, so a place where people lived in the past. Should we continue to see what they found? Remember, they have admitted to already knowing that all of this was here, and they are just now doing something with it. But because they're doing something with it, they have to explain it away with all of this nonsense. I believe, in my opinion, that they are removing anything that could give away the fact that this was not from 1,000 years ago. They are removing all of the things that this community would take and run with. This is shocking stuff. They admit to finding houses. Finding houses? Are you kidding me? Under the dirt? Mud flood, anyone? So what's going on here? There's a considerable amount of cultural items that they also found, as well as cultural materials associated with the places that people would have lived in the past civilization. Can we see this stuff right now on a live stream? No. Do any of us trust these people to share everything that they have found with us? Remember, they knew all of this was here, which is the craziest part. So these people are taking a guess that this civilization was here from the time period of 900 to 1600, which is the exact same time period that we are discussing here. Literally right before the 1800s, a major event took place and wiped the previous civilization out. I'm stunned right now, to be honest with you. It will, of course, all be preserved eventually, once the road resurfacing project resumes. Who here believes that? So this project is going to continue into the spring. So if anyone finds any more information on it, put that in the comments below or send me something on X. We need to stay on this as a community. This is the past civilization being exposed. And one more thing about this article for now. If they knew this was here, what else are they aware of that we aren't being told about all around the world? Now, we are going to begin with the Milwaukee City Hall. And if you all enjoy it, I will go there and investigate and try to get inside. So just let me know if that's something you'd like to see. I have a few other places that we're going to investigate today where the mainstream narrative is lying straight to our faces, to knocking that one down and upgrading to this and seeing evolution hitting us square in the face. I'm glad that once we actually got power tools, the buildings really took off and the architecture just blew us all away with perfect 90-degree angles. So let's all have some fun today and open our eyes even further to the nonsense that we have been told and reconnect with our hidden past that has been hidden for far too long. As promised, here we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we are going to start this episode off with the investigation into the mainstream lie surrounding this Milwaukee City Hall building that was supposedly designed by architect Henry C. Okay. So we have another childish fictional character that the narrator likes to be all weird about, as we have seen so many times before, constantly making names that are inside jokes for middle school kids. Now, of course, due to Milwaukee's historic German immigrant population, many of the surrounding buildings mirror this incredible design. Wow, okay, interesting. So as long as we just have a lot of German people, buildings in the unbelievable Flemish Renaissance revival style will just magically appear. Did you guys know this? I had no idea this was a thing. But thanks to the mainstream narrative, now we know. We should all give this a try sometime. What a joke. Especially because this was built by a contest winner in the 1800s. Anyone that rode around on a horse or a donkey qualified for the contest in the 1800s. Every single one of them. They all had this kind of architecture embedded into their DNA. There were so many of them that they needed to hold contests all over the world to shed off all of the competition. It's strange though, because once the 1900s hit, not a single person ever had what it took to get one of these buildings completed, which is completely backwards from what we are told. Evolution, I thought. Very strange. Well, let's continue and see if they clear this up for us a little bit. What is this? You gotta be kidding me. Not only are there so many people that can draw up a winning design, there are also 2 Henrys that are so incredible that they can win this competition. This is another example of the AI generating names. Fake characters all over the place. They create these names that are duplicates, reoccurring, and nobody ever questioned it until now. We have shown this many times. I think my favorite example is in episode 43, when they show all of the Fredericks. And I'm gonna get back to this Henry Cobb guy after we're done with this building, because he was a busy character. For this insane narrative, construction began in June of 1892, after the pretend political controversy kicked Henry #1 out for the better option of Henry #2. So the project for the tallest building in the United States of America, reaching a height of nearly 400 feet, begins in June of 1892 and is all wrapped up by Henry #2 in just 3 years, when it is now occupied in 1895. Now let's dive into this and show everyone how insane this fake narrative really is. We are told that Cream City brick was used for the exterior of the building. They used limestone, of course, for the decorative elements and ornaments, particularly around the entrance and windows. And then we need to have granite. What would a building in the 1800s be without a massive amount of granite? So that's all great. But how much of these materials would they actually need in order to build the tallest building in the entire USA? We are told that they would need tens of thousands of Cream City bricks and could have been in the range of several millions of bricks. Okay, right. And several hundred to several thousand cubic feet of limestone, and in the range of hundreds of cubic feet to over 1,000 cubic feet of granite. In order for the narrative to be logistically possible, we need all of these answers. So let's use their tool against them again, an AI ChatGPT. Let's see how long it would take the materials to get to the site in 1895 and see if this is logistically possible for Henry #2 to get this thing constructed in 3 years. The Cream City brick is strange in itself, as they have ended all production of it since 1920, so we are told. Now, in my opinion, this brick was from the past civilization, and this is why the mainstream narrative has to explain it somehow and say that we have been unable to recreate it for over 100 years, when in reality, our civilization has never been able to create the Cream City brick. Now, it's all over Milwaukee, so they say that it was sourced in Milwaukee. For the sake of argument, let's just go with it for a minute. Saying that it would take a few weeks to a couple months to produce several millions, which we were told earlier, of cream brick, and transport it to the site. A couple weeks to produce this cream brick in the 1800s. But we can't do it anymore? Do you find that odd? I do. So then we have the limestone, which would take several months to a year or more to extract the several thousands of cubic feet of limestone and transport it to the site. Remember, the entire 400-foot building, we were told, was constructed in 3 years. There is zero room for error here in this insane mainstream narrative timeline. Now we have the granite, which they told us Henry #2 would require over 1,000 cubic feet of. This would take several months to a year to get it all to the site in the 1800s. So just getting all of these materials to the site would be wrapped up in, let's say, a year in this supposed timeline. If everything went perfect, which we are fully aware at this point that this was always the case before we came along. There was never an issue for the horse and wagon community. And Henry can't build this thing himself in 2 years, once all the materials get there. So, of course, he's going to need some construction workers, which we are never told about for some weird reason. But let's see what this would have looked like if the mainstream narrative ever told us the full truth. We would need skilled craftsmen, laborers, supervisors and engineers, specialized trades such as blacksmiths, glass workers, and artists. Then you have the equipment operators and support staff, such as, clerks and accountants, to make sure we don't go flying over the budget and for proper documentation. Now, we have called the Illinois State Archives in episode 44, and we have proven that they do not keep records on these buildings. So what's going on here? Why aren't any of these extremely important people ever mentioned in the narrative? We are always given some magical architect, and in this case, multiple architects, both named Henry, but never anything else. Never a great artist, never an incredible engineer, and never a mention of any bookkeeper. You would think that one narrative would mention it, since these buildings are all incredible and still standing. And in this case, we have a building that was the tallest in the entire USA, yet their website gives us none of this, and we are supposed to just accept it blindly. How about no? We are not just sitting around accepting the lie anymore. Let's ask their tool how long this would actually take. It should say 3 years, since that is how long we are told that it took. But if you follow actual logistics, following real construction protocol, and not fairy tale nonsense that we have been told, then you are going to get a very different answer, a much more honest answer, a much more logistical answer. And here we go. After everything that we have discussed, and also adding in that there are seasonal factors, Milwaukee weather is not the greatest for construction project in the winters. Work might have been suspended or slowed down during the winter months. Okay, so they most likely built it in less than 3 years because of the winter months. Interesting. Using actual logistics, asking real questions that need to be answered. Let's see who the AI ChatGPT agrees with. The mainstream history that we have been force-fed all of our lives, or us? Asking real logistical questions. Given these considerations, a realistic timeline for the construction of the Milwaukee City Hall in the late 19th century might have been around 5 to 7 years. And there we have it. Not even close to the 3-year mark. In fact, it is more realistic that it would have taken twice as long. Wow. We have done this a few times now where we ask the ChatGPT questions like this. And it becomes clearer and clearer that none of these buildings were ever built in less than 5 years. And the fact that this is what we're told gives it all away. That this is impossible and that we are most likely spot on. That a previous, much more advanced civilization with incredible tools, and they did not ride around on horses and wagons, were the true builders of these old world structures. And our civilization is a bunch of founders that claimed these buildings as our own. I don't think that the narrator ever thought that we would go through these narratives, dissecting them down to the smallest detail, asking questions that need to be answered for it to be true. It's incredible all over the world. And I love that we are all seeing the truth now. This is a growing community by the day, because once you see it, you don't go back to unseeing it. The massive growth is proving that the lie is drowning, and we have had enough of it. We are finding the truth about our past, and the truth that this place that we live is incredible. It's filled with perfection, and we have been distracted from it for far too long. When you walk down the street, you will now see the previous civilization's work in your city, because they are honestly everywhere, and they deserve our attention. Henry Cobb, the first Henry that we were given, is a character that needs to be covered. Here we are given a list of buildings that Cobb is credited with knocking out over 100 years ago. There is one specifically that caught my eye, and that is the Chicago Federal Building. And let's take a look at this picture for a minute. We have shown this type of nonsense before, so let's do it again. They show this fake wagon sitting on the dirt road with more people that are identical next to each other in white. These are not real people. They are all photoshopped. If we zoom in on it, you can clearly see that they are duplicates. They are copy pasted. And the other one is all glitched out. And who just stands in the middle of a road anyway? None of it fits in. You have a massive building, yet you have horse and wagon, and you have dirt roads. If it rains, the dirt is going to become so wet, and you will not be moving any limestone. Yet this was never an issue for the mainstream narrative. The dirt is always looking like it had just been raked and perfected for the photo. There's a dirt road down the street from my house, and they have to fix that thing all the time. Otherwise, there's massive holes in it. There are no holes in this picture. It's a perfect dirt road. I'm at the point where I'm going to say that this was prepared for the photo in our new civilization. The dirt is sitting on top of the past civilization's work. These buildings are under the dirt. They are much bigger than we can see. This is not the original road. It's all backwards. The road always comes first in construction because you need to be able to access the construction site. This is obvious stuff that the narrative ignores. Like we said, getting the materials there and the machinery would be nearly impossible with dirt roads and donkeys and wagons. If it snows or rains, then just forget about it. Other than a few fake people, a couple fake wagons and a light post. This is in Chicago. And we all know that Shalaga is not abandoned. There are literally no people in this photo. My point is that if this is true, that these are Photoshop people in wagons, which is looking more and more clear that this is the case, then was this the very first picture of this building for our current civilization to see? It's strange, especially when we hear the story about the building. The Chicago Federal Building. Look at the size of this thing. Constructed in just 7 years, of course. Well, I guess that's better than the last story, but come on. After 7 years, they still couldn't throw a road down? It's weird. And what is this? The 1905 building was demolished in 1965, only 50 years after its construction, and replaced by the Kluck-Ziske Federal Building. Are they joking? This building was outdated after 50 years? Oh, and here's the Kluck-Ziske building that is just bursting with architecture and incredible craftsmanship that our civilization is known for. The perfection of the 90-degree angles is just amazing. I don't even know how we pulled this kind of building off. I'm sure we needed many contests for this building. The winner was a pure genius, one of a kind. And all right, you get the point. That this thing is pathetic. I think that any one of us could have drawn this piece of trash up when we were 5. It's an embarrassment. And to knock down the brand new Chicago Federal Building for this is insane. Obviously, the Chicago Federal Building was not constructed by our civilization's timeline and was not brand new. And it also did not need to be replaced. And should we absolutely shred this nonsense? I honestly can't wait to say what I'm about to say. Here we go. The original Chicago Federal Building, with all of its incredible detail and architecture, we can see that it was obviously incredible. We don't need to ask anyone. And we see the difference between the old world's construction and our pathetic nonsense. Now, if we are a civilization of advancement and the mainstream science and narrative is true, then we would be evolving. Everything would be advancing, as they like to tell us we are. But we all know the narrative just told us it only took 7 years to construct the Chicago Federal Building with a bunch of people that rode around on horses and wagons and no roads. So to construct this new piece of trash that was built with 0 ounces of stone that you don't need to transport from a quarry, this thing better have gotten done in like 6 months or less. So let's see how long. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. 14 years to build this box? So when we can all see the construction, it takes 14 years. But when we aren't around to see it and can't verify the dates, it's done in like 3 years or 7 years, in less than half of the time, and done with so much more artistic detail. This point alone should get everyone in the world to shake their heads at what we have been shown in our education system. How much clearer could it get that our history is a complete lie? This is insane when you really think about it. It's shocking. Now, we all understand that none of these buildings were constructed in less than 5 years. So when we dive deeper, and are told that St. Andrew's Catholic Church, located in Virginia, was constructed in less than 2 years in 1900 to 1902, when this was their way of transportation. We know that there's something off with the mainstream narrative, and this is when you can go deeper. And we find an incredible construction photo. Are you all ready to see it? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This building is done. That is not a construction photo. That is a completion photo. And this photo is coming directly from the church's website. Now I'm gonna show you how they do this, how they get away with using the same architect for so many old world buildings. This way they don't need to make a million characters. They find buildings that look similar, and then they use the same guy. And it doesn't even matter what state they're in. And we have shown this before. But this time it is unbelievable how many they try to get away with. So let's go find William P. Ginther, and we have found him. And we know this is the same guy because in the middle of the 113 old world buildings that are of the previous civilization's work that they are pinning on this guy, we have the St. Andrew's Church in Virginia. So this is definitely an interesting character, and very interesting that they wouldn't allow us to just click on his name. Let's take a look at a few of these buildings. And I'm sure we're going to see a pattern that they are all incredible with perfect architecture. Exactly like the Kuczynski building in Chicago. Just amazing. Oh, I mean, nothing like that. So let's just pick a random one and start with it. How about the St. Philip's Church in Craftsman, Pennsylvania? Okay, well, I think we can see where this is headed already. And to prove my point, let's go right on their website and see the detailed construction story. All of the details will be given that we need in order to fully trust them. So in 1898, a young priest came to St. Philip. His name was William, of course, because they have to repeat names. Because who else is named William? The architect. Well, let's continue. Between 1898 and 1953, Father William undertook a complete renewal and rebuilding program. So let's get this straight. 1898, this guy comes in and starts the renewal and rebuilding program. We all understand what renewal and rebuilding means, right? It means that there has to be something there already. Are they literally admitting that they did not construct this building right here? And they are taking credit for how it looks today by just calling it a rebuilding program? And this is embarrassing for them. I'm not trying to make fun of them, but come on. This is on their website. They say William number 2 is build of stone in cruciform design. Is build of stone? Let's get that corrected. St. Philip Catholic Parish in Pennsylvania. Let's throw a few more of these buildings on the screen and see what we've got from William number 2 and his master skills just for fun. Let's see what he's got going on all the way in California, since it's nowhere near Virginia and would be insane to have multiple projects like this going on at the exact same time in the 1800s. So let's check this one out. Santa Clara Parish in Oxnard, California. Okay, very interesting. Let's take a look at the inside. And of course, this is insane. Still standing today. And as long as it's left alone, it will be there forever. And so will all of the old world buildings. They are all built with perfection. Let's see a few more from William number 2. Let's take a look at Mother of Sorrows Church and Rectory, located in Ashtabula, Ohio. Oh, right. So we have ourselves a castle. This is unbelievable. I'm going to make an entire episode on this guy. It seems too weird to me that he is credited with all of these structures that are clearly not built by our civilization. There's definitely something off about all of these buildings. And I wonder how many Williams we could find hidden within these 113 buildings that are pinned to him. That might be fun to keep a running tally. I'm going to wrap this episode up right here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I was looking at this photo of the Greater Cemetery of Milan, the largest cemetery in Milan, Italy, and thought it was interesting that the 1800s group only seemed to know how to construct columns and incredibly detailed architecture. And as I kept zooming in, it hit me that this thing is bigger and goes underground, with the stairs right here in the center, which brings us to today's main topic. The catacombs all over the world. Yet another topic that we are not fully told about in our mainstream classes. A catacomb is classified as an underground cemetery, subterranean passageways, chambers, used as burial places. But these are no normal burial. They stack the bones in a decorated manner, as if it's an art of some kind, as if these acts were done deliberately. And these were their trophies. Do you want to know where the previous civilization might have gone? I can't make any claims, but there are clues in the catacombs. Where the largest catacomb system in the world is located in Odessa, Ukraine, a man-made tunnel system with over 1,500 miles of catacombs carved into the limestone beneath the city, dating back to the exact time period that we're talking about here. Right before the 17 and 1800s, where the catacombs are on 3 levels and reach a depth of 60 meters below sea level. So when you think that everything on the surface is all that there is, think again. And these are the catacombs that we're told about. So who's to say there aren't more, covered by the mud and dirt? In Odessa, it's challenging to prove. Even a rough estimate of the number of bodies in the catacombs, as there is limited documentation and many areas remain unexplored or inaccessible. So they don't even know how many were put down into these 3-level tunnel systems that extend for 1,500 miles. Now, Ukraine is not the only catacomb in the world. We know this. The most popular one coming in Paris, France, where we are told that this catacomb alone holds the remains of more than 6 million people, and goes on to say that they extend south from the gate of hell. To get a sense of what this is all about, this is not a pleasant sight. And we get the excuse, in my opinion, that these were created as part of an effort to eliminate the effects of the city's overwhelming cemeteries. And the narrative, yet again, hits the dates we are discussing when it tells us that this all took place in the 1700s. What were they doing moving 6 million people in the mid-1700s in just Paris alone? And the most insane part about this is they show it off as an attraction. Buy your tickets here and see what they've done, extending to the gate of hell, in their words. This is all information that has been sitting here for a very long time, and all information that we, for some reason, never really looked at collectively. But now is the time for all of us to get a clearer understanding of what really took place in the past. Catacombs all over the world on their website explaining that these go down 131 steps under Paris, France. Tunnels that cover nearly 2,000 acres right below the city that we all walk on, where we can explore about 1 mile of this place when it has 200 miles of bone-lined walls. And yet again, 2 for 2 today, though only a small part is explored and open to the public. So we are getting an understanding that this 6 million total people is probably much more. And again, we have all asked, where did this advanced civilization go? I am simply researching and sharing what I find, but we can all speculate that it's possible that they are all right below us. A major reason, in my opinion, that these cities hold a very powerful energy, one that draws a mass amount of people to them. Once something major happens in a location, I think we can forever sense it, whether it's good or bad. We all understand with a photo like this that all of these remains. You all may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms are, and they've always been controlling narratives and pushing the stuff that they want us to see. So we need to fight back. Rumble is the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship. But now on the other side, they've introduced something that's incredible, that's going to give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. We all know that banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. We've seen it. So that's exactly why they've launched Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that nobody can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators without any middleman taking cuts. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, and not even Rumble. It's yours. Only yours. Yours to protect your future and family. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin, Tether Gold, and now the brand new USAT, Tether's US regulated stablecoin in one place. Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. USAT keeps your money steady against inflation. No banks are needed. This is not only a wallet to just buy and save. It also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with the click of a button. There will be no more fees when you tip my channel or others. The fees where they take half of your money. Then we have the catacombs of Lima, where they tell us that in 1546, they began construction of the Basilica and Convent of San Francisco in Lima, located in Peru, not California. And this included the catacombs where there are another 25,000 bodies lying in it that we are told about. Again, buried in these weird artistic designs, the catacombs or crypts of Lima are considered the largest in the entire continent. And we are told that these enormous wells, 10 meters deep, filled with bones and skulls, the well's original purpose was to preserve the old buildings from earthquakes. And they also tell us, for a third time today, that there is most likely more to these catacombs that we are not able to see. When they say, it is believed that there is a network of paths and secret passages that connect different buildings. Now remember, before 1943, the public was unaware of these catacombs in Lima. So for me to suggest that there are many other catacombs all around the world is a pretty basic suggestion. And remember, the experts of the 1940s figured out exactly who these people were and gave us the full truth about the dates. No. Let's read that first paragraph. The neatly organized bones for geometric patterns in sizable open ossuary just below the floor of the church, monastery, and library. And before 1943, nobody knew that was there. Now, let's ask a question. How many churches around the world have the exact same thing going on underneath the floor that we aren't being told about? Is this the reason that when you walk into these places, you feel a massive presence? We went into New York City. I went inside the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and here's part of the video that I got. Now, I'm not saying there are catacombs under this church, but when I asked this guy at the front in the suit if there was a basement, he looked at me very strange and said, absolutely not, but did let me know something. He gave me information that I needed to hear, and that is that there is supposedly an even older St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. And this guy let me know that this one did have catacombs under its floors. Now, if I'm going to speculate at this point, I would say that the one that I was in has catacombs as well, but that's just my opinion. But yet again, sold as an attraction where you get tickets to go and see these bones. And we all know how construction works. There are steps that you have to take in order to build a building. You build the foundation first. This means that the catacombs were constructed before these churches. And then the church is strategically placed on top. Why would a church build on top of these geometrically placed bones of, in my opinion, the previous civilization? And then they profit off of it, selling tickets all over the world, showing it off as an attraction to us. In my opinion, the new population. And who is buying these tickets? And then we have the Brno Ossuary, an underground ossuary that were rediscovered in 2001. So this has just been hanging out below the ground for all this time, and we just rediscovered it. I keep saying it, but now knowing this, can you even imagine what is really below our feet? And who did this? Who set all these bones up like this? And yet again, it is under the Church of St. James, where it holds an estimated 50,000 people, making it the second largest ossuary in Europe that we know about. And remember, all of these bones are laid in a pattern, like we've been told, and they are done like this all over the world, not just in Europe, meaning that the same group did this all over the world. And they tell us it's because the graves were too populated. Yet they go on to dismantle the bones and put them into geometric patterns, which makes no sense at all. Why would you randomly do that? It doesn't add up. You would preserve them properly and lay them the way they were found. This feels much deeper than simply transporting due to overpopulation of an area and then building a church right on top of them over and over. So who do they tell us is responsible for placing these bones into geometric patterns? Who did this? According to walksofitaly.com, it was just your everyday quarrymen. You know, those quarrymen just laid human skulls into perfect geometric shapes for fun back in the day. This was their side hobby, of course. No. Let's read this. Despite the ritual with which the bones were transferred, the bones had simply been dumped into the tunnels in large heaps. Slowly but surely, the quarrymen lined the walls with tibias and femurs, punctuated with skulls, which form the basis of most of the decorations that tourists see today. This is unbelievable. Now, do we really think that this was just the quarrymen that just randomly decided to do this in every single continent in the world? Or do we think that this is a front story for the group that is truly responsible for this? You tell me. And that is just for Paris, France. So what about in Peru? 6,077 miles away from each other. Do you think those quarrymen, they just sent their local raven on a mission across the Atlantic Ocean? They need to make sure they also set those overpopulated bone dumps into perfect geometric patterns. Or do you think this might be a lie? When this website lets us know that the ones in Lima, Peru, the way the femurs, tibia, and craniums are placed, echo a symbolic or ritualistic intention, and goes on to say that neatly organized bones from geometric patterns in sizable open ossuary just below the floor of the church. And now when we go back to the St. James Church and go on their website and find that today, the ossuary at the Church of St. James is an attraction for tourists. So right under this floor, you have 50,000 that have no true identity, just overpopulation, moving random people that were just crowding the place, just taking up too much room and time to put them in the geometric layouts all over the world. And most of it being off limits to the public. Are you trusting the mainstream story so far? Should I keep going? Should we just show that this fire narrative all over the world may be a much deeper meaning? Is this the location where the catacombs are located? Because in 1515, the St. James Church, we're told that the finished presbytery was affected by the fire that caused the roof to fall in and subsequently destroyed all the altars. Is this the nod showing us the locations of where they are buried? I'm not sure, but we have seen it multiple times now. And things are starting to get very interesting if you ask me. Coded messages, hidden clues, all written within these narratives that have been waiting for us to discover them for years. I've said it before, but it does feel exactly like a game, a puzzle that we are supposed to solve, all within this narrative that we've been given. Clues that when you know what you're looking for, seem to stare at you right in the face. So let's go deeper. Let's take a look at this map. Right here in the center, we are given the St. John's Church, where we know right underneath it is all of these catacombs, all of these bones. And it looks like it is the central location of the entire city. Going back to my point that this might be the reason that so many people today are pulled into these cities on a much deeper level without them even realizing it. You can see the same thing going on in Paris with their catacombs. Like everybody is gathering around it and they don't even realize it because it's below their feet. And to prove my point, let's show another one and go back to the first one that we talked about, Odessa, Ukraine, where there is clearly an attraction going on here to this central point. It's not like the catacombs are on the outside of the city. They are dead center. Even the old St. Patrick's Cathedral is dead center on this land layout of Lower Manhattan. And the same exact thing with the new one that we saw, went inside of, and will be covering in an upcoming episode. Another centralized catacombs location in Alexandria, Egypt, where the city is circling around it again. And the inside of these ones are pretty intense. They consist of 3 levels, cut through solid rock. Visitors can reach the first level through a breach in the rotunda wall, which of course was made at an unknown date. This leads to a hall of Caracalla in which the bones of horses and humans were found. They were found. We even have the St. Paul's catacombs, where we have catacombs all the way out on this little island of Malta. And again, right under the church. And here, they give us the layout, the one that's available to the public. And you can see that this is intricate. This is not done by your average cowboy or your random quarry man. They were very advanced and precise with what they were doing all over the world. So what we see on the ground is clearly not all to this place that we live. There is much more below our feet, where I have some incredible things planned for this channel. The more that it grows. The more that it grows, the easier it will get for us to do things. One thing's for sure, and that is that we have a lot more to discover in places that have been here all along. And now that we know that they are there, we can go even further into this research. And do we all understand how this is all connected now? When we can go back to episode 68, when we saw the Tron Kirk. And at that time, we didn't know. But now we do. Located in Edinburgh, Scotland. Do we all remember what we read? Do you see now how the more information that we have, the more we understand when we read that the church floor was removed in 1974 to allow excavation of the entire floor level, where we now understand what is underneath these floors of so many of these churches all over the world. We now understand most likely what they found in 1974. We are unlocking it all. Do you remember when we found catacombs all over the world? I think we're all ready to go back and take it even further, exposing what is below our feet in nearly every one of our cities without us ever thinking about it. Are we all attracted to these cities, these locations, for a reason that you weren't aware of, a much darker truth than you were ever told about? And do you remember when I showed you all that these catacombs are right underneath the floors of these churches, places that were built with the knowledge that these bones of the past were placed into geometric shapes right underneath your feet on Sundays? When we go to Southampton, England, where we are told one of the strangest places in pre-war Southampton was the catacomb beneath the All Saints Church at the corner of High Street and East Street. And remember, this is all located every single time in the dead center of the city, with everything circling around it, with its location, Southampton city center, of course telling us that there was a previous church, where we know this is a reoccurring pattern in the narrative at this point, where they say that the first church was described as very ancient, and they supposedly demolished it. Where after everything that we know here, I believe that there was only one church on this site, and it was the one that we are looking into, the supposed second church, where this story gets interesting. The foundation stone was laid by the Grand Master of the Freemasons, a church that they knew catacombs were underneath it, because they tell us down here that the building was completed in just 4 years, from 1791 to 1795, despite hardly having any funding. Completed in 1795 in 4 years, where the catacombs of the original church remained intact and were, of course, incorporated into the new building, showing that we are correct yet again, that these catacombs were there first, and then the church came after, and were supposedly ancient, as we were told from earlier. We're ancient, in my opinion, meaning from the previous civilization, where a major event took place. And these bones have been placed underneath the floors of these palace-like structures all over the world for a designed purpose. When it goes on to tell us that the catacombs reached beyond the actual building, extending under High Street itself. And this is what we are told. We also know from episode 72 that these catacombs are mostly off limits to the public, where we are only shown a small portion, where we know that these most likely extended throughout the entire city. With the new organ being installed in the church in 1861, manufactured by Bevington and Son, where the son is not Bevington's son, in my opinion. I believe that the son is the mason, guiding the way to use the organ to connect with the people above and below the floorboards. When we have shown, according to ScienceDirect.com, piezoelectric effect is the ability of certain materials, including bone, to generate an electrical charge in response to mechanical loading, where we are finding out, in my opinion, how these so-called churches are being used and how they are operating as a machine. The heart of any bone-conducted system is the vibrator, which convert amplified sound. The mechanical vibration, the organ, connecting with these bones, as well as the people that are alive and above the catacombs. So I will ask again, are you 100% sure that you fully understand why you are inside one of these old world buildings on Sunday? Do you know who created these buildings and for which purpose? And I am not saying that all of them are like this, but we have proven that we should all be very careful where we go and what we are being used for. Do you understand that the people that use these buildings throughout history, they fully understand much more to this world than we are told, where it seems that they fully understand how to connect vibrations with bones, where through vibration or music from an organ, an electromagnetic field is produced that excites the magnet element and counterweight, producing movement or vibration within the actuator to change the electrical signal to vibration that can move through the bone conducted pathway to stimulate the cochlea inside of your ear next to your brain. Do you understand what's going on now? Where this subject is much deeper than the world understood before, where the previous civilization was taking advantage of knowledge, an incredible understanding of human anatomy, possibly being able to manipulate people and being able to connect it through vibration within a contained environment where the bones extend out into the city, in my opinion, creating a vibration that reaches everyone in the radius, whether you attended on Sunday or not, where I bet you probably didn't think to research where the nearest catacomb was before purchasing your home, where in 1914, the graveyard was basically decommissioned, a removal of religious blessing, which is not fooling anybody. It's still there today. Removing the headstones, where it became a children's playground in the 1930s. When the church was bombed in 1940, and they tell us that 403 people were transferred out of the catacombs and moved to Hollybrook Cemetery, but others had disintegrated, where we can all take an educated guess at this point that there was more than 403 people in the catacombs, and they are most likely still in there, where the church was then demolished, where sources, of course, do not indicate exactly when. And now, today, they have shops on top of them, where they, of course, have the fire narrative right in there, where I threw it out there a few episodes ago, suggesting that the fire narrative may be the location of where these catacombs are all located. This may be the nod, where we are finding clues and getting closer and closer to the truth. Now knowing what we know and knowing what may be under the floor of more of these structures than we are actually told about, where it is possible that they didn't even know about this when they found these places. And this was possibly done by the previous civilization, which is why we are seeing our current civilization, the founders or the finders, excavating these floors now all over the world. or they call it renovating the floor, where we know what renovation really means. And we can see that there is so much more underneath these structures all over the world, where in my opinion, they lie to us and say, we don't know what is beneath the floor, says director of the Department of Ancient Sciences. This is the guy who is responsible for the archaeological excavations of the entire floor area during the restoration of the pavement. So we don't know what we shall find. Where I think we know that they know exactly what they're going to find. Are we seeing what's going on a little clearer? Comment below and let me know what you're thinking right now. I really enjoy hearing everybody's opinions and comments, or even just your reactions and feelings about what we're exposing to the world. Things that 99% of people may have never known before today. And it is a great time to be a part of this community. A community that is growing faster and faster every single week, where the pavement stones date from various periods, ranging from the medieval period, the old world. This taking place in March of 2022. And this place is home to the Holy Fire Ceremony, if you can believe that. And this is the location, we are told, that Jesus's empty tomb is, and where he was buried and resurrected, and where he was crucified. This is known as the Church of the Resurrection, located right in the center of Jerusalem. Yet again, and we've shown how the Mappa Mundi in episode 70 told us that Jerusalem was the true center of our map. And the center of Jerusalem is where Jesus was supposedly buried and crucified, possibly an extremely significant thing that they found underneath the floors, where it of course has the fire in its narrative. If you can believe this, they know the exact month, May of 614, on the dot. I'm surprised they didn't tell us what time. And in 841, another fire. 938, same thing, another fire. And in 966, the basilica was burned again. These fires were no problem, of course. Rebuild after rebuild. The people of the 900s had it all under control, with renovations from the year 1555, where Donkeys Incorporated were shipping the materials by moonlight, when a fire severely damaged the structure again in 1808 due to a cow tipping over the candle. Oh, wait, no, that was supposedly in Chicago. So they don't tell us how any of these fires start, of course, where they are clearly nods, coded messages, where the more fire that they give us, the better the treasure. Is this what we're seeing here? The remains of the kings may still be in the unmarked pits under the church's pavement. They may be, they might be. They say they are unsure, but I think they know exactly what is going on underneath that floor when they have another fire breakout in 1840. So after 2 years, $11 million later of careful archaeological work, the so-called experts have wrapped up, where the excavation, of course, required closing it off to the public, the site where Jesus is believed to have been buried. So they're not going to tell us exactly what they found. They are, of course, going to have to give us something, or too many people will start asking questions. So they tell us that they found some coins and fragments of wall cladding that was covered with graffiti, telling us they did other restoration work of other parts of the basilica floor, where they uncovered an old world drainage system. We know that they did not rip up the entire floor of this place. $11 million, block it off from the public, all for some coins, some graffiti, and a drainage system. I think we're all beyond that point of knowledge. We all know that they found something much more interesting and meaningful. My guess is they found tunnel systems and catacombs. Let me know what you think they really found in the comments. Let's go deeper. This is the narrative that the faithful believe, that the floor covers the tomb where Jesus was put to rest after his crucifixion. So we know that a lot of these churches are home to much more under the ground. Even in Italy, they have the Catacomb Domitilla, one of the largest and most ancient underground cemeteries in Rome. One of them, where it holds an underground basilica, where you can, of course, buy your tickets today, profiting off of yet another catacomb. It is nice of them to have a student discount. Wow. They tell us that these were rediscovered and home to more than 26,000 tombs. These catacombs are part of a network of almost 40 catacombs that lie right underneath the city of Rome, serving as a burial place for more than 500,000 people. And now I know that we are 100% correct. We have confirmation that the catacombs were there and built first, where I was getting comments saying that that was possibly not the case when I suggested it in episode 72. Well, here we go. The basilica was built over the catacombs. And we know this now. What a very strange place to put a church on top of skulls and femurs that we know are placed into geometric patterns, bones that have to be boiled, cleaned up, and polished, and then put into place. They were not simply moved due to overcrowding the cemetery. We know now there is something much deeper to these catacombs than we were originally told. And today, we have found missing clues. We have shown that there are so many more catacombs around the world than we were told, with networks of catacombs all under your feet in Rome. We have this documented now. We understand that these churches are most likely connecting with these bones through vibration. These bones that have been there for a very long time, a previous civilization that was here before us. And we know now that they are and always have been underneath our streets, underneath our cities, possibly used as ritualistic sites, where the catacombs also served as a meeting place to pray and worship in secret, where these underground catacombs are no longer a secret. And I believe they were never meant to be a secret. These are clues. As I have said in the past, this feels too much like a game for all of us to solve, with coded messages, connecting clues. All of it is out there for us to find, leading us deeper and deeper to finding the truth about our true past. Are you ready to go back into the catacombs? Just like we have seen every single time, the location of this chapel is in the historic center of Naples, Italy. The alchemist's chamber, or chamber of secrets, descending underground beneath the chapel yet again. We find 2 human skulls, and this is just the beginning. It's clearly symbolic for what is possibly behind that drywall, looking very different from the original plan, where half of the descendants would be placed above and then half beneath the main level of the chapel for reasons that are unknown. Now, I want everybody to understand that this is most likely a bunch of nonsense. And I say this because we have seen this so many times all over the world, where millions of bones are placed underneath these places of worship. They know exactly why they're there. Telling us reasons are unknown. This is telling us a lie. And we know this now. The prince is also most likely a fictional character, a fictional backstory as to why there are bones underneath this chapel, right in the middle of Naples, Italy. This place is also home to marble statues that are clearly not carved by hammers and chisels. We are told that these were carved in 1753, portraying Christ deposed after crucifixion, covered by a transparent veil, just chiseling marble perfectly in 1753, and then going home to his wooden shed, freezing in winters, no indoor plumbing, just relieving himself in a pot. They didn't even have toilet paper yet, using whatever was available, using old rags, moss, leaves, or the good old trusty hand, as we're told. But we're told that this hand-wiping civilization was just next door chiseling marble veils. So clearly somebody is lying. And here we go. The entire chapel is filled with symbolism. The chamber is said to contain secret passages, hidden rooms, and I guarantee that there are networks of tunnels, massive catacombs, all connecting to this central point, this location, this chapel. Some of these symbols inside the structure include the glory of heaven, a triangle that hides meanings that must be read in an alchemical Masonic way. The triangle signifies alchemically or sulfur, and of course, fire, where they have more angel and dragon depictions inside. It's just art, of course. If any one of these people that are just standing in line to get in just looked up for 2 seconds, they would see what is carved into the doorframe. This place, in my opinion, without a doubt, is a massive network of catacombs located right below their feet. Hidden rooms, secret passages, skulls on their front door, symbolism all over the place here. Let's take this up a notch and go even deeper. Staying in Italy, more specifically, Rome, we have the Our Lady of the Conception of the Capuchins, a Roman Catholic church. It is the first Roman church dedicated to the Immaculate Conception. Looking very nice and peaceful inside the building. Nothing too crazy. Everything is just fine until you scroll down to the crypt section. And just like we found on this channel back in episode 72, part 1 of the catacombs, the crypt is located under the church. Every single time this is the case, holding the remains of thousands of people, thousands of bones, right below the floor of this church. The crypt is divided into 5 chapels, lit only by dim natural light, seeping in through the cracks. The crypt walls are decorated with the remains in elaborate fashion, making this crypt a work of art. This is insane. Can you believe that this is going on under so many churches in so many countries, proving that this was a common practice? It was not just a clear space for the cemeteries. In my opinion, it was a ritual. And I say possibly, but I mean probably, still is today. Structures and buildings, knowledge of the past. Where did all these people go? Why didn't the great fires of the 1800s kill thousands of people? Inhaling smoke would have done this by itself, and we've shown this. What if these great fires did? Or what if they were already gone and placed into geometric patterns? A previous civilization placed right under all of our feet, unaware that they were all under our feet, under the places of worship. Until now, the crypt originated of a rich and creative cult for their dead. Great spiritual masters meditated and preached with a skull in their hand. Meditating with a skull in their hand under a church. What are we reading? What is going on here? I definitely was not taught about this in History 101 or 102 for that matter. With a bone-chilling message, a plaque right here in the center. In one of the chapels reads in 3 languages, "What you are now, all of us, we once were," the previous civilization. What we are now, the catacombs, dead skulls, being used as meditation, you shall be, all of us. Basically giving away their plan right here on this plaque and what they have done to the previous civilization, putting them under our feet, putting them in places of worship. Let's read this again. What you are now, we once were. What we are now, you shall be. Crazy that they put this right on the wall, telling us what the plan is, showing who those people are. I think this proves who they were and where the previous civilization really went. And it would be one thing if this was the only one in the world
This is not even close to a once-off. It's in so many countries, and most of it is not open to the public, meaning that there are most likely so many more people that we're not told about or can see. We have seen this in Odessa. The catacombs are 1,600 miles long, a 3-level system, reaching a depth of 200 feet below the sea level, a massive network. Or the Paris catacombs. We are told that they are 174 miles long. However, only a small portion is open to the public, extending deep beneath the city streets, representing one of the largest grave sites in the world. So we don't know if they are bigger than 174 miles, but to suggest that they could fit a previous civilization, I mean, they definitely could. Now we're going to move to Poland. We have the Skull Chapel. There's nothing weird going on here at all. No skulls on the door, not a single symbol that would give anything away. Do you see anything odd about this picture? Am I missing anything? I do see more angels, but that's just art, of course. And the building does look like it's going below the street level, which is kind of odd. And what is this in the basement? How did this get here? You know, if they found this underneath somebody's house today, I think we would all be a little skeptical. And I think it would get its own Netflix series. But as long as it's underneath a church, everything seems to check out and be just fine with everybody. Can we all wake up? At what point do we all say, that does seem a little odd? Maybe there is something weird about that. Maybe thousands of bones underneath the floors of all of these places of worship is a little odd. It is a little weird that my history teacher didn't tell me about this. It is a little odd that they are all put into geometric patterns. And I guess it is a little weird that they're holding skulls in their hand while practicing rituals all over the world in the basement. Anybody? A little odd? Yeah? Okay. And a nice no touching sign right here, in case anybody is insane and wants to do that. Ritualistic intentions, in my opinion, right beneath your feet, all over the world, collecting the bones, cleaning them all up, and putting them under the chapel, the Sedlik Ossuary, Czech Republic. I told you we are just getting started, and I'm going to turn your reality upside down. I'm going to show you something that you will never unsee. The ossuary is estimated to contain skeletons of between 40,000 people and 70,000 people. And we know it is most likely more, whose bones have in many cases have been artistically arranged to form decorations and furnishings for the chapel. Tell me, at what point do you think that these people have your best interest in mind? At which point do you start thinking for yourself? Understand that what you've been told is planned. There was a previous civilization here, a civilization that was just like us, that was extremely advanced. They held the technology to create massive palaces all over the world. We have shown this. Masterpiece marble art that will be here forever. Again, all of this information is sitting right in front of your face. It's always been here. These places are real. We can all go and see them whenever we'd like. It's up to you to open your eyes and see the truth. I'm going to say it again. Imagine any other place in the world, a grocery store, somebody's house, a warehouse, a restaurant, a mall, anywhere else. Imagine that they had 40 to 70,000 people, bones, laid in artistic designs under their floors, holding skulls in their hand for meditation. What would we all think about that place? Why is this so acceptable? Because it's under a church. This is strategic. It's by design. The ossuary is among the most visited tourist attractions of the Czech Republic, drawing over 200,000 visitors annually, with chandeliers of bones containing at least one of every bone in the human body hangs from the center of the nave. with garlands of skulls draping the vault. Why is this a place that people are paying to visit?
If I'm just being honest, they've done an incredible job manipulating the masses, telling us it will be us right on the wall one day. And we pay them to go look at the people that are now chandeliers. And they are so good at doing this that it's now somehow normalized. One of the most disgusting places in the world, in my opinion. Hundreds of thousands of us pay to go inside every year. Have we all lost our minds? We have shown that these things connect to schools, places of worship, hospitals. And then they put this kind of art in there. A decoration, apparently. Moving over to the Chapel of Bones. We are told it is one of the best known monuments in Évora, Portugal. Just a great attraction, a chapel located right next to the entrance of the Church of St. Francis. How did the Chapel of Bones get its name? Well, it gets its name because the interior walls are covered and decorated with human skulls and bones, of course, and a great place to spend your Saturday. Come on down. And then they need to make sure they put these glass barriers up so that nobody goes and touches the bones, because people just can't seem to help it. What is going on? Who would seriously pay to go in one of these, let alone go and touch the bones? Oh my gosh, if you could see me now, you would see that I'm looking at these people shaking my head. It's under the church though, so it's acceptable. No. Did you know that this was below our feet? Did you know how extensive this was? Did you know that it was worldwide? Did you know that this one holds an estimated 5,000 corpses to decorate the walls of the chapel? The bones just came from ordinary people, of course, arranged into a variety of patterns. Such a normal thing to do under a chapel. Not weird at all. Very normal thing for chapels to do. But if a convenience store starts taking ordinary people and arranging them into a variety of patterns, I don't think anybody's going to pay and take pictures. We're not going to get 200,000 people a year in a Walgreens basement. But the place of worship, not an issue, of course. No problem. At what point do we wake up? I'm going to go deeper. I was going to show you these photos that are down there, but then I read this sentence of what is underneath this chapel. So you can go look at the pictures for yourself. I'm not sharing it here. This basement, a place of worship, holds 2 corpses, one of which is this. And then people pay to go in there. And this is acceptable somehow. Written on the roof of this chapel is the phrase, "Better is the day of death than the day of birth." And we can now see who we are dealing with. A group that doesn't seem to enjoy our company. A group that seems to be fully in control of the masses. So much so that they think these places are payment worthy. The photos that are under this church, in my opinion, are disgusting. Understanding what is under our feet is incredibly important, and see what has been going on all of our lives. Places that are used as ritualistic practices, things that we are told right on their websites, holding skulls for meditation, bones of the past placed into artistic designs, decorations to make chandeliers, plaques that read that what we are now, they once were. What they are now, we shall be. If you were on the fence about this research before, unsure if there was a previous civilization that was wiped out, unsure if we are being given back technology from the past, thinking that the narrative that we're all told worldwide, thinking that it was giving you the full story. Are you still on the fence? I think now is the time we all get off it. When we go to Austria, Hallstatt to be specific, an Austrian house of bones, filled with hundreds of intricately painted skulls. We are told that in the 1700s, the church began digging up corpses. In my opinion, this was the previous civilization from the mud, all to make way for the newly dead. An excuse that we have seen before, taking up too much room. So let's paint these ones and put them into geometric patterns for fun, and then do rituals and also make people pay to see them. Sounds good? No. Tightly stacked
over 1,200 skulls. Once the skeletons were removed from the mud, they bleached them in the sun. And then 1720 comes around and they start painting them. A nice tradition, apparently, decorated with an assortment of symbols. Though this practice has been dying out since the 1960s, they took a woman from 1983 and they entered her into the ossuary in 1995, showing that this is still going on today.
Being stacked into geometric patterns right below the floor of so many churches. Today, we take this even further because we have breaking news. More information has come out where we read that the Paris catacombs are closed for restoration. We all know what restoration means. And then a brand new route is going to be discovered, supposedly, which makes zero sense at all, thinking logically. And reading their narrative, where they tell us that the Paris catacombs were officially created in 1786. Our timeline yet again, where they tell us that they placed millions of bones into this already existing underground tunnel network, saying that all of these tunnels were from the 1200s, when we all know that they just found them, and these tunnels are from the previous civilization. And I don't believe for a second that they moved any bones in the 1700s. I believe they 100% found them, and something really weird took place. I don't know who created these tunnel networks and placed the bones, the 6 to 7 million people, into this massive tunnel network below Paris. But I do not believe that it was done in the 1700s. And I also don't believe that it was all done because they ran out of room for overflowing cemeteries. This is shocking. And I think whoever put the 6 to 7 million people down there into geometric patterns, I believe that this group is still here. I think we're dealing with something shocking. And I think they're in the middle of hiding what is under the streets, calling it restoration, where the city of Paris tells all of us that they just want to improve the visitors' comfort while being in the catacombs, paying to see the millions of bones placed into ritualistic patterns. They just want you comfortable. And as we scrolling down in this article, we read that the catacombs, they must be closed temporarily to the public. From November 2025 to the spring of 2026, the historic site is therefore inaccessible, off limits to the public. And they did not put one Ring doorbell down there for you and me to watch. We are not going to be able to see what they're doing down there, what they're changing, what they're removing, or what they are adding. We have no idea what's going on down there. It's all off limits. Also that we can feel more comfortable in death row. The old world tunnels filled with human remains that, in my opinion, they've been there for hundreds of years, and they don't need our civilization's help one bit. Millions of people from the old world. They were not digging up 6 to 7 million people in the 1700s and bringing them into these random tunnels underneath the city and then putting them into weird designs in the walls. The people of the 1700s, they were supposedly suffering and riding around on horses and wagons with dirt roads. They were sleeping in sheds and going to the bathroom in their backyard. They were not doing this massive burial project, cleaning all the bones, sorting all of them, and then creating symmetrical patterns, designing decorative bone walls underground. And then there's no record of who these people really were, the bodies that are dismantled. There's no names on them and there's no dates. They're just dismantled and they're put all over these walls. And what's weirder is that the walls, they're just skulls and femurs. Where are the rest of the bones? Where's all the finger bones or the ribs? Where's the feet? They literally just dismantled these people and just took these specific bone parts and put them all together and made these weird patterns in the walls. Whoever did this was disgusting, and they did not like these people. In my opinion, this is 100% a trophy to the beings that wiped out this previous civilization, selectively picking which bones to place, totally dismantling these people into a weird art project, and then putting them underneath Paris. This is unbelievable. And people are going and paying to go see this. And they want you to feel comfortable down there. And remember The Paris catacombs are 180 miles long in total. And the tourist section that is now closed off, it's only 1 mile of it. So what is going on in the other 179 miles? And then you have to ask, are these tunnels so much bigger than 180 miles? Because we're not allowed to see it. How many people are actually underneath the city of Paris? And why in the world does Paris, France, have police dedicated to the underground? It is illegal to enter the catacombs. They're off limits to the public. Outside of the tourist route that is now completely blocked off to the public, going into the catacombs is prohibited under French law with a specific police unit that is patrolling the tunnels. Their job is to patrol restricted tunnels, find trespassers, prevent exploration, and stop gatherings underground. They do not want you to see the truth. They only want you to see the part that is comfortable, in their words. Restricting the public from the catacombs. This all happened in 1955, where it became officially illegal to enter the restricted sections. The restricted sections, that's meaning like the entire thing, all 180 miles of it. And they have been patrolled ever since. Now, I want to remind everybody, this is all in my opinion, and you're always free to think whatever you'd like. That being said, we know that there are 6 to 7 million bodies underneath Paris, over 180 miles of catacombs, with only one of them being open to the public. And that 1 mile isn't even open to the public right now. It's been illegal to go explore since 1955. And they have police guarding the tunnels. 6 to 7 million bodies, moving them in the 1700s. This is what we're all told. Digging them all up, removing their gravestones, separating them all, picking and choosing which body parts they're going to put into place so that they could make room. For who? For the new civilization? All of us? You tell me. 6 to 7 million people. Let's estimate that a single horse-drawn wagon was putting 20 people in the back per trip. They had to relocate 6 to 7 million bodies, and they had to go underground and place them into geometric patterns, as we've seen. According to math, this would require 300,000 separate trips, and they are now caught. Their lie is exposed. They did not do this in the 1700s. They didn't take 300,000 trips. This would imply sustained coordination, labor, excavation, transportation, unloading, sorting, and architectural arrangement underground. This is not a little transfer project that they can just brush off. And what's shocking about this is that we have been told this entire time that there are 6 to 7 million individuals placed into these tunnels. We're only allowed to see 1 mile of them, which we are told only exposes a small fraction of these 6 to 7 million bodies, with no official published count of what we can see. But we all know that what we can see is only a small fraction of the overall total. We're not able to actually go down there and count and see the 7 million bodies. We're only allowed to see a few of them within that 1 mile range. And this obviously means that we have to question this even more. I believe that this means that there are more than 7 million bodies down there. There's something so weird going on here. And I would bet you, from what we know now, that there are bodies of beings that are either so much bigger than normal human size or beings that do not look like us, that are from the old world. I want to remind everybody of the Great Fires in every single country, the wars that destroyed so many old world buildings that had statues or depictions of the past, of beings that I believe were here in the old world. Massive people, small beings, beings that did not look like us. I believe without a doubt that this is what's being hidden in the other 179 miles of catacombs underneath Paris. I believe that they've found the massive skulls, huge femurs. We have no idea where we are, and that's because our history books are a complete lie. We have no idea what they've actually found down there, Because anytime there's something outside the mainstream history, it would make no sense at all in their stupid story, it immediately gets blocked off. And it's been blocked off for decades now, especially when you go around Paris and you look at the buildings and you see the depictions, you see beings like this. Who here would be shocked at all at this point? If beings that were here before our timeline are inside of these catacombs, 179 miles blocked off to the public. Let me know in the comments. Would you be shocked if they've gone in there and removed all of them while we're not allowed to go in there and see them? I think that this is exactly what's been done. I believe that in the 17 and 1800s, they found all of them. And they found the skeletons that looked nothing like us. Beings that were a part of the previous civilization. And the ones that are on display, the statues, the depictions of the past in the museums, those ones have their hands and heads chopped off, hiding exactly what they really looked like. So we have 6 to 7 million bodies inside the tunnel network underneath Paris. Who's to say that they all looked like us? When so many depictions of the past, of the statues on the buildings, don't look anything like us, especially since they're all being actively blocked off from the public. And we are all told that Donkeys Incorporated was just off moving millions of bodies and decorating them underground. I personally don't think Donkeys Inc. would have had anything to do with that. It's incredible. 10 years ago, I think that suggesting that beings that don't look human or were a lot bigger or a lot smaller than average human size, I think that that would have been dismissed instantly. Today, that's completely changed. Asking questions is exactly how we've been finding answers. I'm not here saying that there are for sure beings that aren't human in these catacombs, but through their actions, putting together all of these things that we've seen to this point, including the Nephilim episodes, I think that it's very likely at this point that the old world, the previous civilization, prior to the 1700s, I believe that this place that we all live was covered with beings that did not look like us. We've all seen the stories where angels were helping the people construct palaces. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that myths and legends are all fake and fairy tales, when in reality, we have proven that the history books that are inside the schools right now, they have no source. There's no author. And the stories that we're all being told, those are the real fairy tales for adults. There are no blueprints backing them up. There's no receipts. There are no ledgers. There's no documentation. We also know that restricting the public, that means that we know that something huge is being hidden from us. For all of those people that are asking, why would they restrict 179 miles of tunnels, 179 miles of catacombs underneath Paris? It would change the narrative in a second. If you opened it up right now and you showed the entire world that beings are underneath Paris, that there are skulls that have horns, people are obviously going to wonder, why has that been hidden all this time? And then they're going to start wondering, what else is not being told to them? And that's exactly why it's restricted. And then they're going to say, okay, Paris is hiding 179 miles of tunnels. What's going on in Odessa, Ukraine? What's going on in the 1,550 miles of catacombs there, where thousands of miles of tunnels are effectively closed to the general public? The full network has not been fully charted. Only a small section of these catacombs, such as the portion incorporated into the Museum of Partisan Glory, is officially accessible for tours. The whole thing isn't even mapped out yet. And we all know that there are catacombs all over the world. The old world is underneath our feet, underneath these cities. And things are happening in these tunnels today. They're doing something in there. Just like we saw in Chicago, where they have structures underground, just like we see in Paris, when police discovered an underground cinema 20 meters below the ground level on the roof of the chamber, the Star of David, along with other things. And then when the police returned a few days later, after they discovered it, the electricity, it had been disconnected. and a sign reading "Don't look for us" was placed there. This place was still in use. The underground cinema was discovered just a few days after police found 3 tunnels near the capital's only prison. The old world buildings are all connected underground, and we know this. My question is this: who is still using these tunnels today? And what else are we not being told about? Those police officers that found the cinema, they were supposedly removed from the force, and we never got their names. And we've never heard from them ever again. And what is going on in Mammoth Cave National Park, a 426-mile cave system that's being mapped out in Kentucky, USA? Supposedly the longest cave system in the world, where they were finding human remains deep inside in the 1800s yet again. They found bodies. They found old world items. They displayed the remains publicly for decades, and then they removed them. And the cave system is now restricted for preservation and archaeological reasons. What else is in there? What did they just find that they do not want us?
Kofi, follow me.